Right now, there is someone in your life who is quietly draining your soul. You call it loyalty, you call it love, you call it standing by them through thick and thin, but God calls it disobedience. This is a hard truth. Most believers are not ready for this conversation, but your spiritual survival depends on it. Today, we are looking at 6 types of people God wants you to leave behind. He does not want you to be lonely. He wants you to be safe. Some connections are costing you far more than you can afford to pay. By the time we finish, you will see these relationships with perfect clarity. Think about a boat tied to a wooden dock. If the rope slips, the boat does not rush out to sea instantly. It drifts. It moves an inch at a time. The water seems calm. You do not even notice the movement, but eventually, that boat is miles away from safety, lost in deep water. That is exactly how a toxic friendship works. It does not destroy your faith overnight. It quietly changes your direction, one conversation at a time, one compromise at a time. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26 says, "The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray." Look at that word, carefully. Friendship is not an accident. It is not something that just happens to you. It is a choice, a serious spiritual decision. Not every smiling face is on your side. Not everyone who stands close to you is safe to keep around. Today, we are going to expose the 6 types of friends the Bible warns us about. Type 1. The gossip friend. This is the friend with a leaking mouth. Everything you tell them in secret eventually becomes public news. Let me share a painful moment from my own life. I had a friend I trusted completely. We shared deep conversations. I told them about my private struggles, family issues, silent battles I was fighting in my soul. I thought our bond was sacred. I thought my secrets were safe. Then, one evening, I walked into a small gathering. I saw a group of mutual friends talking in the corner. As I walked closer, my heart stopped. I heard my own words, my exact words, coming out of someone else's mouth. They were laughing. They were discussing my deepest pain like it was cheap entertainment. The room started spinning. My stomach turned completely upside down. It was a cold, sickening feeling. In that moment, the truth hit me. My private pain was just currency to them. They used my secrets to buy attention, to make themselves look important, to have something juicy to talk about. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 19 says, "A gossip betrays a confidence, so avoid anyone who talks too much." Notice the Bible does not say, "Try to fix them." It does not say, "Have another long talk and hope they change." It says, "Avoid them. Get away." If a friend whispers other people's secrets to you, they will whisper your secrets to others. Your private life is just their next conversation starter. A friendship built on broken trust is a house built on sand. Type 2. The walking storm. This is the friend who lives in a permanent hurricane, and they want you standing in the rain right next to them. We all know someone like this. They are always offended, always in a fight with someone, always dealing with some dramatic crisis. They move through life like a wildfire looking for dry wood. They are very good at hiding this poison. They call it passion. They call it standing up for justice. Or they just say, "I'm just keeping it real." But it is not real. It is just rage. I remember having a friend like this. Every single phone call was a battle report. Every coffee date was a list of grievances. They hated their boss. They were angry at their neighbor. They were furious at another friend. I thought I was being a good Christian by listening. I thought I was bearing their burdens. But I was actually absorbing their venom. After spending just 1 hour with them, I felt completely exhausted. My shoulders would feel tight. My mind would race. A heavy, dark cloud seemed to follow me into my car. I would go home to my family. My spouse would ask a simple, innocent question, and I would snap at them. I would raise my voice for no reason. I was carrying someone else's dirty laundry into my own home. I was letting their storm wreck my peace. The Bible gives us a very sharp warning about this. Proverbs chapter 22, verses 24 and 25 says, "Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared." Notice the danger here. The Bible does not say they will hurt you. It says you will become just like them. Anger is highly contagious. It is a spiritual virus. If you sit in the smoke long enough, you will start to smell like fire. You cannot be the peacemaker God called you to be if your closest companion is a fire starter. Type 3. The silent competitor. There is a quiet kind of pain that only comes from someone you thought was in your corner. This is the friend who loves you, but only as long as you stay a few steps behind them. They are your biggest fan when you are struggling. They cry with you. They hold your hand. But the very moment you succeed, the mask begins to slip. I remember a time when a major breakthrough happened in my life. It was a prayer I had prayed for years. Finally, God answered it. I was bursting with joy. I could not wait to tell my friend. I expected them to jump up and down with me. I expected a warm hug. But when I shared the news, the room went completely cold. There was this long, heavy silence, an awkward pause that felt like it lasted forever. Then, they gave me a tiny, forced smile. It did not reach their eyes, and before I could even finish my sentence, they changed the subject. They started talking about their own day, their own problems. It was like my blessing was an insult to them. As time went on, I started seeing a clear pattern. When my life was a mess, they were always there. They were highly attentive. But when God started lifting me up, they drifted away. They suddenly became too busy to meet. They found excuses to avoid me. I realized their love was not based on real connection. It was based on comparison. They needed me to be down so they could feel up. They wanted me to be close, but only at a safe distance below them. The Bible exposes this dark attitude. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." Envy is like a cancer in a friendship. It eats away at the foundation. If someone only loves you when you are losing, they do not love you at all. They love the control. That is not a friendship. It is a cage with a pretty smile painted on the bars. If you are realizing right now that you have someone like this in your life, do not ignore that feeling. Take a moment, subscribe to this channel, and write in the comments, "Lord, give me the courage to obey you in my friendships." Type 4. The spiritual muzzle. This is not a friend who openly fights your faith. They do not mock your beliefs. They do not argue with you about the Bible. Instead, they do something much more dangerous. They make your faith feel completely irrelevant. I want to be very clear here. I am not talking about people who do not believe yet. We are called to love everyone. We are called to be a light in a dark world. Jesus spent time with tax collectors and sinners. He sat at their tables. He showed them love. I am talking about a very specific person. This is someone in your inner circle. They have been around the church. They have heard the truth. They know exactly what you believe. But they have made a quiet, firm decision that none of it matters to them. And because of that, every time you are with them, your relationship with God feels like an awkward guest at the table. You feel like you have to hide your faith. You have to tone it down just to keep the friendship comfortable. Think about how we talk about other things. People talk loudly about sports. They talk proudly about money. They share their hobbies with excitement. But when you are with this friend, you find yourself using a hushed, almost apologetic tone to talk about God. You speak in whispers about the creator of the universe. I remember a young believer who had a childhood best friend. They grew up together. They did everything together. But as this young man grew closer to God, a massive gap began to open between their values. Every time he tried to share what God was doing in his life, his friend would instantly change the topic. If he suggested praying before a meal, his friend would make a sarcastic joke. Slowly, without even realizing it, the young believer stopped talking about God around his best friend. He stopped sharing his prayer requests. His faith did not die in a single day. It just went completely silent. And a silent faith is a shrinking faith. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 asks, "What fellowship can light have with darkness?" This is not about judging others. It is about recognizing reality. If your closest friend makes your faith feel like a heavy burden, rather than a fire you want to share, that relationship is costing you something eternal. It is slowly silencing the voice of God in your life. Type 5, the invisible dictator. This is the friend who does not want to walk beside you. They want to drive your car. Control is a sneaky thing. It never shows up with a warning label. Instead, it wears the mask of deep affection. It sounds like, "I am only saying this because I care about you," or "You really should check with me before you make that choice." Sometimes, it sounds like a guilt trip. Why did you go out with them without telling me first? Before you know what is happening, you are not living your life to please God anymore. You are living to keep this one person happy. Imagine getting a text message. You spent your Saturday afternoon with a different group of friends. Suddenly, your phone buzzes. It is a dry, cold text. Must be nice to have so much free time. Or maybe they just stop replying to your messages for 3 days. This is the silent treatment. It is a psychological trap. It is designed to make you feel like you did something terrible, just for having a life outside of them. I watched this happen to a brother in our church community. He was a kind, gentle soul. But he had a friend who acted like a personal manager. This friend had an opinion on everything: where this brother worked, how he spent his money, who he invited to dinner. If this brother made a decision on his own, the temperature in the room would drop instantly. There would be heavy sighs, passive-aggressive comments. The friend would make him feel like a traitor. It took years for this brother to see the truth. He thought he was being a loyal friend, but he was actually a prisoner. The most dangerous part was when God called this brother to step out in faith. God wanted him to start a local outreach program. It was a beautiful, bold calling. But when he shared the dream, his controlling friend was the very first person to throw cold water on it. They said, "You are not ready for that." They said, "That is a bad idea." Not because it was actually bad, but because they did not design it. They could not control it. Galatians chapter 5, verse 1 says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." If a friend makes you feel guilty for following God, that is not a friendship. That is a heavy wooden yoke, and Jesus already smashed that yoke on the cross. Type 6, the ticket holder. This is the friend who loves your success, but has no interest in your struggle. They are attracted to your blessings, not to you. You can identify this person with one very simple test. Where do they go when the storm hits? Where are they when your bank account runs dry? Where are they when your marriage is on the rocks? Or when your health begins to fail? Where are they when you have nothing left to offer, except your tears and your pain? Let me paint a picture for you. Think about a crowded dinner table. You just won a major victory. The food is expensive. The laughter is loud. Everyone wants to sit next to you. They want to be seen with you. The room is packed with people who call themselves your friends. Now, look at a hospital waiting room. The lights are cold. The air is heavy. There is no music, no laughter, just a plastic chair and a long, quiet night. Who is sitting in that chair with you? Who is holding your hand when there is nothing to celebrate? I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a season in my life when God opened the windows of heaven. Everything I touched seemed to turn to gold. My phone did not stop ringing. My inbox was flooded with invitations. People wanted to hang out. They wanted to connect. They wanted to be associated with my success. I thought I had a massive family of friends. But then, the season shifted. A time of testing arrived. The visible blessings vanished for a moment. The spotlight went dark. And suddenly, the phone stopped ringing. The invitations disappeared. The people who used to text me every day were suddenly too busy. It was a painful, sobering wake-up call. They were never drawn to me. They were drawn to my harvest, and when the harvest season ended, they went looking for another field to feed on. The Bible describes this exact human behavior. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 4 says, "Wealth attracts many friends, but even the closest friend of the poor person deserts them." And verse 6 adds, "Many seek the favor of a ruler, and everyone is a friend to one who gives gifts." These ancient words are still completely true today. If someone only shows up when your table is full, they do not belong in your life when your table is empty. They are just spectators. They bought a front row ticket to your success, and the moment the show gets boring, they will leave their seat without saying goodbye. Walking away from a friendship is one of the hardest things God will ever ask you to do. It feels wrong. It feels like you are failing as a Christian. You have been taught to love everyone, to forgive without limits, to turn the other cheek. Those teachings are true. They are beautiful. But loving someone does not mean giving them a front row seat in your life. There is a massive difference between loving people and giving them keys to your heart. Look at Jesus. He loved the crowds. He healed thousands. He fed the hungry. He even washed the feet of Judas. But his inner circle was incredibly small. He only let 3 people deep into his personal life: Peter, James, and John. Even the Son of God had boundaries. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Guarding your heart does not mean building a wall. It means placing a guard at the gate. It means being wise about who you trust. God is not trying to isolate you. He is trying to align you. He has real, healthy friendships waiting for you. People who will pray with you. People who will push you closer to God. Friends who will stand by you in the dark, not just celebrate in the light. You have to let go of the wrong hands so you can hold the right ones. Trust God enough to walk away from what is draining you. If this message spoke to your soul today, let me know. Write in the comments, "Lord, I trust you with my friendships." That simple sentence is a prayer, and God is listening. If you know someone who is trapped in a toxic relationship because of false loyalty, please send this video to them. It might be the very thing that sets them free. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel so we can continue to seek biblical wisdom together every single week. May God bless you deeply, my brother, my sister. I will see you next time